So DeLorean itself decided to not ever let somebody buy the car unless they own the NFT, because that would be the digital provenance of the car. And you would be able to know all the times that the car was been charged, all the times that it's, braked too hard or accelerated too quickly or even ran stoplights.
Une promenade et l'univers c'est moi. Après une cascade et son lieu c'est toujours toi.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Medallion XLN Podcast. I'm here with Justin Taubman from Solidity Labs, VC funder of the Web3 phenomenon that's happening right now. And we're going to learn about how different NFT projects can really benefit from this wave. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. And if you're watching this on Substack or Medium, please subscribe there and like as well. Definitely. So Justin, tell me about yourself. Tell me about how's the VC world?
Well, I mean, Dwayne, to be quite honest, I am not in the VC world per se. We do some investing, but it's mostly in helping companies that have the ability to do something that we know is going to be special, and we try and help cultivate them in sort of an incubator or accelerator fashion. However, I've been working with many of the people in the VC world to figure out how to help others that need more money than we can provide. So a little bit more about what we do is at Solidity Labs. I'm the COO, and I'm trying to really get our company to find the next unicorn, or also help governments and places that need to utilize blockchain that don't even know that they could utilize blockchain. So there's a lot of potential in that space where brands and governments and big businesses can benefit from the utilization of blockchain.
Okay. So what are some examples in ways that governments and brands can benefit from blockchain?
Well, if you think about, for example, like the government of Ukraine, people are fleeing their own country to escape a war, and they need their identity to be on some sort of immutable ledger because they're leaving behind all of their documentation about who they are and their real estate property tax information, things like that. Like all of that needs to be recorded somewhere. And so we're trying to appeal to the Ukrainian government to utilize blockchain. They're very much into it, and they've also been able to do a lot of things already on blockchain for the amount of money that's coming into their country from their allies.
So right now, is that a current project that you're working on, what you just mentioned with Ukraine, or is that just an example of the possibilities?
It's a potential project we're working on. I can't really speak too much about it, but it's a really one that I think is a great use case for why blockchain is so effective and so helpful for these types of scenarios in our world right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And so you have you've worked with DeLorean and you're bringing them or you've brought them into the NFT space. Could you speak more on that project?
Yeah, so I'm a part shareholder of a company that I moved over from called Future Tech, and we were the development lead on creating a digital twin of a car. So if you think about a car, there are tons of little features in the car that give a bunch of sensors, and it has a little mini computer on it. But this car in particular is very smart. So it has, one of the uh, like like a wristwatch type thing that actually senses your heartbeat. And when it senses your heartbeat and it knows that you're running a little hot, it will change the thermostat, for example. If it knows that something has gone wrong, it will send all that information and it will be stored on its NFT as a digital twin. So DeLorean itself decided to not ever let somebody buy the car unless they own the NFT, because that would be the digital provenance of the car. And you would be able to know all the times that the car was been charged, all the times that it's, braked too hard or accelerated too quickly or even ran stoplights. It's a very smart car. It's, up there with the Tesla type models, but in a very different format. And it's like a supercar. So it goes super fast if you want it to. But it has 4 seats and could, be used as a family car. It's very smart, and it knows when there's a baby seat in there and all that stuff. So it's a really fun project because it exemplifies the way that you can take an NFT, use it for utility that will last forever from its digital provenance.
Mm. So that's very interesting. And I would like to kind of recap what you said. So pretty much DeLorean, they've created an NFT that is a replica of the physical product, right? And
Yep.
pretty much every single update that happens to the physical product is recorded on the NFT and is there permanently, correct?
Yeah. So if you think about companies like Carfax that do it where, but it's every time you go in or you have an insurance claim, anytime you get in a car accident, Carfax, knows, and they list that in their ledger of the history of your car. It gets associated with your VIN number or whatever. But the way that this works is very different. This actually records all the times that your car is charged. This records all the times that you've bumped something. And you don't need to share that data, but the data is there. And there are some insurance companies, for example, that will send you a little sensor device that will hook up to the sensors in your car, and you could save money by putting that in. However, they have got full reign on what data that they get shared with them, and the end user could be somewhat screwed in a resale if there's certain things, or they could, be parking in a weird spot and it would know from its geolocation that it's in a very strange location that tends to be have break-ins and things like that. So you might the insurance companies typically like to use it to have it for safety reasons. And that's why we want to have this as a digital twin. But the other reason is because there's the whole concept of not having an auto dealership, not having brick and mortar. So we know that there's a speculative market for NFTs out there, and people will buy an NFT and then they will resell it for more value. This is a way for the NFT community to actually come out, buy these NFTs, and then become auto dealerships themselves, because this is the pathway to entry.
Wow. That's very interesting. And it also seems like this particular implementation plays really well with the metaverse, because like you're literally having a digital representation that's being updated in real time on a physical product, right? And also, like NVIDIA, they've unleashed released their Omniverse. And I don't know if you've gotten a chance to check that out, but it's pretty much like a full replica of the physical world in a digital space. And it seems like if you can input the data from the NFT into this digital space and kind of like keep track of it, like in a one-to-one scenario in the metaverse, which is just pretty interesting. So speaking of the metaverse, like what's your thoughts behind the metaverse?
Well, I mean, the metaverse is becoming very, very mature quickly. There's a lot of things that need to occur, though. I mean, I think if all of the metaverses would, kind of play ball with each other, then I think that it would be it would grow faster. However, there's a lot of walled garden activity and not a lot of collaboration, where I think in most of Web3 communities, you'd see a lot of friends with each other. I hand out collaboration agreements all the time with people, and we just kick each other business. And it's very helpful to do it that way, and everyone sort of realized that at first, but now people are starting to get a little bit more close hold on their metaverse. And there's one thing that I saw in the fashion metaverse community that really kind of excited me. And to be honest, I can't remember the name of it, but it was a way for you to buy an NFT for your avatar, and you could port it to every single solitary metaverse that they were connected to. So let's just say you buy a pair of Air Jordans and you own that NFT. You paid, let's just say, $100 for it, and you can take that NFT to each metaverse that you play in. If you're playing games, if you're going to concerts, if you're just walking around or building, real estate, that's cool, because they all don't use the same code, so you have to be able to port those things. If you buy it once, you don't want to buy it 50 times. I mean, if I buy a pair of jeans right now, I would like to wear my jeans in every one of the homes that I go to, and it's sort of the same thing. But if you're living in a virtual community and spending a lot of time there, that's important, and that's where they're sort of getting hung up, in my opinion. But I think there's a lot of good innovation in the metaverse communities, and especially in the gaming communities. There's just plenty of ways for this to be great for society as we as we move into a more digital world.
Cool. So I think a common conception that people have of NFTs is that they're just overpriced JPEGs. Now, do you agree with that sentiment, or do you have a different take?
Well, uh, the funny thing about that comment is that they're not JPEGs anymore. This is all about the utility and the smart contract behind them. So a lot of people don't understand that smart contracts are a way to essentially decentralize lawyers for things like real estate and things like I don't know, if you're doing a huge commercial deal on a building and you want to get a bunch of investment in, and it is technically a security. So right now there's no, as far as I'm aware of, there is no regulation on this, but there will be. So you would have to have a broker dealer or use some sort of Reg D standard to operate under. But it's a way for you to get crowdfunding in NFT format. So, I mean, that's on a PFP. People talk about PFPs like Bored Ape Yacht Club. You know, they're worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. That is all like, that's fodder right now. And it is not the future of this industry.
So do you think, like, because although they're not the future, they're definitely the face. Like, whenever people think of metaverse, they automatically associate like CryptoPunks or Bored Ape Yacht Club. So do you think like that kind of status that they have, is that a detriment to the current market in the NFT space, or it doesn't really matter in the long term?
No, it's definitely to its detriment, because it's gotten people kind of tricked just due to the media coverage and, you know, the mainstream media, that they'll say whatever draws clicks. And it, like, to me, it's things like, you know, reading things like the Bitcoin standard, understanding like how currency works. And the same thing happened with Bitcoin. And it was just a lot of negative press with the Silk Road, I believe it was. And that was a, you know, sort of like dark web way to filter money around and buy drugs and human trafficking. And there was a lot of like bad actors in that, but that was very early in the whole process. Right now it's becoming more mainstream. I just went to the Boston FinTech conference, and at that conference, you know, I was speaking to people at Fidelity Bank, speaking to professors at MIT, and these people actually care now because they know it's real. And this is actually like the next generation of finance. So they're all there. There was JP Morgan, there was Morgan Stanley, there was all of the biggest banks there sitting in the crowd. And it actually was the most intellectual conference that I went to this year. And I've been to a lot of conferences, and many of them get a bad reputation because a lot of the people that are getting into this space have been young people who have actually made money, and either tons of money or they lost some money. But for the most part, the young people that are still involved have really changed the whole rhythm of how this is going to be in its trajectory. It's very fascinating, and that's why at Solidity Labs, you know, we embrace youth and ingenuity and innovativeness.
So, so talk more about like young people, like define that idea a little bit more. Like what are young people doing exactly that's so impactful in the finance, in the realm of finance?
Well, I mean, a lot of people that were younger tended to peer towards the Bored Ape Yacht Club type projects, and were able to get involved because they knew how to get into the Discord and communities that sort of taught them what they needed to do to purchase these things. And, you know, if I asked, let's just say, like, you know, my mother or my brother even to get into a Discord community, they wouldn't even know what to do. They wouldn't even know what I was saying. So they got into the communities, and Discord was originally designed for gamers, and it eventually sort of got spun into a Web3 community building engine. However, there's some ways to make it easier for people to understand how to buy NFTs, and, you know, how not to get spun down some sort of rabbit hole of reading online and Googling and figuring out their MetaMask wallet and their and knowing what happened and how to pay, and having some sort of cryptocurrency in their wallet to buy it. Right now, what's going on in the community that I'm aware of is that a lot of people are shifting towards using a systems wallets, which enables fiat payments, because, you know, crypto is in this crypto winter, and a systems wallet enables you to use both. So you could either use, you know, your Visa, MasterCard, Amex, or you could use your Ethereum, Bitcoin, you name it. So it's a really cool new way of doing business in this space, and I'm all for having it for both. You know, if you can't purchase things like as easy as it would be to purchase a Starbucks cup of coffee, then it shouldn't be. It can't proliferate. It can't go out there to the masses. And the whole idea right now of Web3 is to actually get more people involved and get more brands involved. Brands have been really underserved by the way that blockchain could help them. And it would be great if they could start understanding how it would work for their particular brand and how it could benefit them in the long run, not only engaging with their fans, but engaging with their internal employment.
Very cool. So speaking of young people in Discord, I think I want to, because they've been frequent guests in my show, the Lootverse project. I don't know if you're familiar with them. And they're not necessarily a PFP project, but like the way they're structured is very interesting to me, because it's like a community collaborative project that builds up on top of each other, right? So the Lootverse idea is pretty much a collection of text-only NFTs, and then these texts inspires other creators to build projects around each specific text. So some people who've been on this podcast are like Bad Banners for Adventurers, and they focus on building the world building part of the Lootverse world based on these texts. And then there's like Realms, which is working with Starknet, and they're trying to solve the MetaMask problem, because like they're building like these on-chain multiplayer games, right? And every single action that a person does in these games is a transaction, and they don't want like your MetaMask popping up every single time like you do anything or pick up an item, because that's a whole transaction that you have to approve. So StarkNet is actually solving that, and they're just rolling it up on the Ethereum's layer 2 and just processing the whole transaction at the end of your session. So I think that's pretty interesting. And although right now it only pertains to games and blockchain games in particular, I think like in the future that definitely has a huge use case, which I'm not sure if you are aware of.
No, I'm actually not too aware of many of the metaverse new features that are happening on layer 2, but I see a lot of projects. So what I do is I get about probably 50 different projects sent to me every day, and I choose whether or not I want to look at them further and whether or not I want to help them. There are some that are still in my sort of incubator phase, but they're all going to be self-funded. I mean, they're happy to find their own money. I'm just giving them a little bit of help. And I've also been reaching out to tons of venture capitalists in this space to either, my pitch to them is, there's got to be like some sort of quid pro quo here, where if you have a business that is you're cultivating in your ecosystem, why don't you, and they need development support in the Web3 space, please give them to us to work with, or at least recommend us. And then otherwise, we can do sort of under the hood testing for you to see if the company is what it says it's going to be. And because right now, most investors are sort of concerned with rug pulls and opportunities for people to steal all of your money, which has happened. And people that are building with offshore developers that they don't know who their developers are and they don't vet them, they get they have the opportunity for failure and opportunity for like total destruction.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Absolutely. So actually, I was a victim of that. I'm not too proud to say it, but I paid some folks to work on our smart contract. They were recommended to us by some other people that I was pretty familiar with. So I thought, it was a good thing. And then at the end of the day, they turned around and like tried to hold my contract hostage unless I sent them more money. I was like, oh man, I'm still recovering from that, but it's pretty tough.
I'm so sorry to hear that, man.
Navigate like what's legit and what's not, because the space is so new, like you don't really expect everyone to have the established credentials, because like everything is new. So you kind of have to take chances on people, and it's hard. It's hard right now. So like I definitely understand what you're saying.
Right. I have nothing but we've cleaned up a few messes before, and I'm so sorry to hear that, because what you can do to sort of mitigate that risk is really get to know who you're working with and do your due diligence on figuring out who the developers are, because it can happen to anyone. If they're outsourcing their developers, then make sure that they're using a reputable team that has a really strong background and they've done, work with other reputable teams and not caused mischief. That's how you get. You could do your due diligence, and I know, Dwayne, like you said, like this is a new space, but it all goes back to tech development, and in tech development, I started my career at Homeland Security, and I was doing tech development in a very rigorous stage. So we had to make sure that everything. I was literally working in a skiff, and there was literally one line plugged into my computer, and there was no Google, there was nothing. I just had access to databases. That's how serious they were about IT security. So moving on in my career, I've been very diligent about working with reputable developers and ensuring that is of the highest standard. And it's hard to hear stories like yours, Dwayne.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's part of the game. It's the cost of doing business, as they say, right? But I don't want to spend too much time on that. I want to go into Solidity Labs, and I want to get a full overview of what you guys do, how you kind of implement. Yeah, go ahead. Explain Solidity Labs to us.
Sure. So, as a client comes in, they're typically word of mouth or brought in through one of our partners. And what we do is we sort of get an idea, kind of like a phase 0 type thing, where we pull in all of their requirements and their business level objectives for whatever it is that they want to accomplish. And then we kind of ideate around it internally, and then we do an ideation session with the client. And then we move into actual development, and then we start marketing. And through our marketing, we can do things like bring in influencers, or put a Discord community together. We're also right now speaking with a company called Stage, which is a potential sort of disruptor to Discord, and for community building. And I think that through the marketing and the consulting and the ideation, we get them to the place where they actually need to be at the end of we get them to their purpose and their mission. So we try and achieve their mission quite quickly and rapidly. Typically a project, let's just say it's an NFT project, take about 3 to 6 months.
3 to 6 months. So pretty much, would you consider yourself like a consulting firm for Web3, where a client comes in, you go over pretty much the trajectory, what it's going to cost, and then you do the development and the marketing? Would that be a way?
I'd say consulting comes with the job, but I wouldn't say we actually are consultants. We definitely have access to consultants that are true consultants. If a big brand wants to work with a consultant to really structure how they're going to best work with us, then we would be able to do that. But we typically don't like to spend our time doing that, because it's not our job. We are a development company, and we focus on that and marketing.
Okay. So what are some of your clients like?
Well, we work with several governments, and we working with Ronaldinho, the famous soccer player.
Okay.
So he's got a project with Nike actually, and it's going to be sort of like a Dino is what he wants to be named after. It's sort of like a TB12. If you're familiar with Tom Brady, his brand, it's going to be like that. And there's a ton of clients that I could mention, but the types of clients that I want to work with, and I am actually also currently working with, is it's a sports gambling app in the golf world called Tour Trader Pro. And what it does is it treats all golfers like commodities. And we're going to tokenize this to make it accessible to all 50 states pretty quickly to be able to gamble in a legal way that doesn't violate any SEC laws or anything like that. But we want to partner with a professional tour, whether it be Live Golf or PGA or LPGA or anything like that. But we would like to do that.
So this is like fantasy football or like for golf?
Well, if you think about it like a stock exchange, like you start, like the players start on Thursday and they end on Sunday. And if you forgot to set up your lineup in fantasy, then you can't get involved. But in this case, you can. You just buy a stock in a player. And it's actually total fan engagement, because if you think about it, from Thursday to Sunday, you can continually make or lose money with your wagers. Throughout time, nobody's ever been able to have anything but binary bets. And this is total dynamic betting and wagering. I mean, you could do this in a casino, doing prop betting and things like that, but you would never see this anywhere else. And so their stock falls and rises after every stroke.
After every stroke? So it could fall and rise multiple times throughout like series?
Every stroke. So if you're on the golf course and you see Bryson DeChambeau hit a ball into the woods, then you could just short him for that hole.
Oh, wow.
And then you get some money at the end. Because he's going downhill.
The whole round.
If you're shorting, you have to wait till the end of the round, but you could sell off his parcels for a profit. And it works just like a commodities exchange.
So it's just like gamified gambling kind of thing, but with NFTs. Yeah,
well, the first play is going to be with fiat, but the Web3 play is going to be with tokenization of these players and sort of playing it with a token model as well.
That's pretty interesting. So, wow, like since we've began this conversation, like you showed me all these different ways that NFTs are being utilized that I just wasn't aware of, like the way that DeLorean is using the NFTs to reflect a physical replica or a digital replica of a physical product is pretty interesting. And also this gambling implementation is interesting as well. Like what other type of use cases are out there that's cool?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's plenty of tokenization models for real estate, and we're currently doing one with a real estate company that they're buying a bunch of Airbnbs, and you could buy a token to be partial holder of an Airbnb that's going to be generating revenue pretty quickly. And so they're purchasing them strategically, and they're handling all the property management, everything. You don't even have to lift a finger. All you have to do is buy the NFT. So it only matters how much you want to buy. It doesn't matter if you buy $100 or $100,000, but you can buy it. And that's how you could invest in real estate, which right now, the economy is quite suffering, and there's very few places that hold value, and real estate's one of them.
Yeah, definitely. And as well as real estate, what other industries are NFTs disrupting from your view?
So insurance is another one. I honestly don't know fully how it works, but there are a bunch of insurtech companies that are starting to get involved in how it could be leveraged for the way that insurance operates. And I'm not an expert in that vertical at all. Music is a big one. If you think about the way that, pretty much everywhere where there's a middleman or middle person, that it can disrupt it, because there's no need for these music labels. These music labels are just stealing from the musicians and artists, and that has been clear for a long time. I mean, there's stories about everyone from, Britney Spears to Kanye. The music labels get in the way, and if they had more rights over their own art, then they would be able to actually be a more solvent for the amount of money that people are paying to consume their art. And if you think about, so there's tons of music that's been made out there that has never been heard, and so people could buy artists' unmade music as NFTs, and they could be the music label.
Wow.
So
that's interesting. Yeah, especially since the beginning of the year started with Joe Rogan and the Spotify controversy. And, I think that controversy had more to do with COVID, but the underlying controversy was that Spotify pays their artists 0.003 cents per stream, something ridiculously low. So, at the same time that Spotify was paying artists so little, PFPs were just exploding, and they were trading for millions of dollars. And then people are just doing the comparison, how is it possible that, there hasn't been a kind of an NFT music implementation that kind of pays artists a fair share? Because, I forgot his name. Capitalism. Adam Smith, the founder of capitalism, every work that we do is worth something, right? The reason that things are priced the way they're priced is because labor is factored into it, right? So if a artist factors pays for studio time, pays for beats, pays for whatever, and releases their music for free, then that's an inverse of how the market's performing. So I'm glad that NFTs are solving that issue for them.
Yeah, well, it's really just reducing the amount of overhead for tons of industries, and it's a really exciting space to be in, and I love it. It gets me really. I wake up every day somewhat tired, but mostly excited for what could happen. And I have no idea. Some days I'm on the phone with, very famous people and having to represent an industry that they maybe don't know much about, but it really gets me jacked up. And I love this space. I love this industry. I think every single company is going to be tangentially related to it in the next 10 years, if I had to guess. And there's really no looking back at this point.
So how much do you think this industry is going to be worth in the next 5 years?
To which industry?
Just Web3 in general.
Well, that's a very difficult thing to answer, but I'd say trillions, if not multi-trillions.
Wow.
It's already worth in that stratosphere, so I would say like hundreds of trillions of dollars. Wow,
that's quite a lot. So, is there a particular project that Solidity Labs is working on right now that you're excited about, that you're willing to share?
I mean, yes, there's really one that we are hoping to help the Ukrainian government, and we're trying to help the people in Ukraine, and we're trying to speak to them. That one's a very exciting one. The biggest project right now is probably there's so many that are just I'd love to share, I just can't. Mm-hmm. So I'm holding my tongue and hoping that I could share it again with you someday soon. But there's like we really don't focus on these PFP projects. So PFP projects, if you don't know, audience, their profile picture, they're just a bunch of pictures, and they have layers and they have utility in some cases where if you own them, then you can go to certain events and you can, donate to certain things, and you have the ability to find something more than just the picture, but they don't do it for me. I like things that are actually useful. So the things that I'm working on right now, unfortunately, are like a bit hush hush, and I would love to share them with you, but I just can't.
No problem. It's all good. Yeah. So you have a very interesting history, right? So you were involved in the creation of being able to book your flights online or bag checkout on your mobile phone. Is that correct?
Yeah. So if any of you all have ever used your cell phone as a boarding pass, you're welcome. I created the QR code. It's IATA Resolution 792 version 3. And I negotiated that with all the airlines to ensure that there would be a security layer in there that was going to take up quite a bit of real estate. And so what was difficult about that was that, the airlines all wanted real estate for, say, things like a kosher meal, yes, no. Well, we needed a PKI system, public key, private key system where you could scan them. and you could authenticate all of the information is actually real. Now, when I first started my career, I came to understand that there's a pretty big security glitch. And if you were to go to buy a plane ticket, you could buy it I could buy it on Dwayne's name because he's not on the no-fly list, but I am. And I buy his ticket, I Photoshop it and put in my name, and I go up to the TSA and I put in my information and I give him my ID with my name, and there's nothing to scan to validate that it worked, that those were synced. So then when I go through security, I toss out the Justin ticket and I use Dwayne's ticket to get on my flight, because that one actually would scan and nobody knows the wiser. And that actually was exposed by the Atlantic magazine a long time ago. And it was like really in the midst of when I was fixing this whole problem. So I had to work quickly. And then I worked right after that in getting in TSA PreCheck. So helping solve TSA PreCheck. I was executive on that project. And then I started working for I got an interview with a guy named Travis Kalanick. He was the CEO of Uber, and it was very, very early. Nobody even knew what Uber was then. And he asked me to come out to San Francisco. We met in Washington, D.C. I was potentially going to be the 19th employee of Uber. And I didn't get the job. I didn't get it, but Travis, he emailed me and he said, here's what you need to do. You need to go get some more private sector experience. So after that, I took his words to heart and I said, all right, I'm going to go take the GMAT next month. And then took the GMAT, went to business school, then started working for startups and landed me in Boston, where I just met my wife and ended up staying here. But right after we got married, I had done a job for a company, and I had 6 months that I was still getting paid for this project. And that's when I learned about blockchain and Web3 and cryptocurrencies and all this stuff. I had 6 months that just really just geeked out on it. And not many people have that liberty at, my point in life, to have 6 months to just work on nothing but self-education. And it made sense to me. I had many aha moments. And so that's where I got connected to a crypto exchange. Then I started working for Future Tech, and now I'm working with Solidity Labs.
Wow. Yeah, that's been quite an impactful little career that you've had. Like very, very interesting career. And I'm sure a lot of people who benefit from the pre-flight check-ins thank you to this day, because no one wants to go through TSA like that. So
yeah, trust me, I still get groped.
Oh, that's not. I don't know if that's not safe for work. Everyone, make sure you turn down your speakers. I'm joking. But yeah. Let's So, is there anything else that Solidity Labs is working on that would be interesting to talk about? Like, what's your biggest accomplishment? What's the biggest thing that you're proud of?
Well, I would say the biggest thing that we're proud of to date is the Ronaldinho project. And we're going to be, really proud to represent like a very famous football star People call it football in Europe, but we call it soccer here. And it's just cool to work with like a Michael Jordan of their sport. The best that ever played to many people, and showcase them in a new format and put them out there so that I just think that there's going to be a big transformation of companies right now from utilizing their, people like to say Web 2 to Web 3 transformation, but I love to say AOL to Web 3. And that's what people are doing right now. I mean, there's so much just noise about this that doesn't allow them to really understand the power of blockchain and the power of what it's capable of doing for their companies. If you think about, let's take one more example. So companies like Louis Vuitton, okay, they're starting to get involved in Web3, I think. And if you were to put a RFID chip or an NFC chip into the embroidering of the bags, that basically you could tap with your phone and see its provenance in your wallet, that would change the game. Because, I'm wearing a watch right now, and this watch got secondhand. I don't know who owned it before, but I bought it secondhand, and if I were to send it back to the manufacturer, they would be like, "No, who are you? Why did you steal that from someone?" So this is how you prevent theft. This is how you can create an economy of luxury items that have provenance and don't have to be validated. I could go up to your Louis Vuitton bag and just tap it and just see, like, yep, they own it.
Wow.
And
that would probably cut down rapidly on the bootleg market too, because
they'd be out of business.
Yeah,
I mean, we're shutting down Carfax, we're shutting down bootlegging. I mean, this is all stuff that is good for society and the world. I mean, I don't know what bootleggers do, but it doesn't seem like a very nice thing to do to the people that actually created the intellectual property around those things.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was watching the what movie was it? It was the Gucci movie, the one that recently came out. And there's a part of it where they showed that Gucci was kind of bootlegging their own products because it was super expensive, and they don't really spend that much to make it. So they were still making a profit, but they weren't making a profit from like their legit stores. So I thought that was interesting. Like that was like a way for these high-end products to still bring some money in, but like not really sell it at a premium. But also, I've noticed that a lot of high-end stores are also like cutting like a low-end brand. So like Armani has like Armani Express. I think Versace has like Versace Green or something like that. So they have like these little like lower tier products that they sell for a lot cheaper. So yeah, that's a tangent. I don't know what it has to do with this conversation, but yeah.
But you get what I'm saying, is that like if you could do that and it all sticks to the immutable ledger of blockchain, then you've changed an entire system that's been rolling one way forever. And if you could think about it with precious metals too, you think you're getting a diamond, but it's really a cubic zirconia, and you could actually write in like a code into the diamond that is like laser inscribed, where you could figure out whether or not it was a blood diamond, and B, whether or not it came from the person who is giving it to you.
Mm. Yeah.
So pawn shops are gone too.
That would be interesting. Yeah. So also another technology that I think people who are adjacent to NFTs are interested in is AI. So AI has the ability to like create art with like Dolly 2 and Midjourney and Stable Diffusion. Are you familiar with any of those technologies? And how do you see that impacting the market?
AI is not my, I'm definitely not too briefed on that. I mean, I understand it, but I'm not an expert. So, but I would love to chat about it if you want to.
Yeah, well, I just thought it was interesting because, like, you know, I would say the face of NFT is PFPs because, like, PFPs is kind of like the killer application for NFTs. It popularized it, although, like, the utility projects are like where it's at. Same thing with AI, like the ability for AI to generate art is kind of the killer app of artificial intelligence, while artificial intelligence still has these other use cases like being able to self-drive a car and stuff like that. So I just was curious if you had maybe a take on it or something like that.
Sorry, you cut out for a second there. I missed like the last probably 10
I was just
seconds.
curious if you had like a take on AI art.
I'm not even familiar with AI art, so never even heard about it.
Well, I'll send you some links. Like, it's pretty fun to play around with. So pretty much the way it works is you type in some text prompt and then the AI will generate art based on like what it thinks you want. So you can like actually generate realistic images that resemble, like you could say the Mona Lisa as Homer Simpson or Homer Simpson in the Mona Lisa, and it'll generate that prompt. And I'll send you some links after this interview. It's pretty
That'd
fun.
be great. Yeah. I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
I didn't know you could like these were projects in place right now.
Yeah. And also like NFTs are so AI generated NFTs are also a thing, but they resemble the PFPs. It's just multiple collections of NFTs were generated with just AI art. So that's
very cool.
Yeah. So I'll send it to you. It's pretty fun to play around with. So yeah, last 10 minutes, we would like to give you just the opportunity to promote anything that you're working on or anything you want to shout out, anyone you want to shout out, any of that stuff.
Well, shout out to my child. Just came back from the hospital and saw the child on the screen, and that was pretty heavy for a father. And I wanted to also shout out Tour Trader Pro and also the Get Right Tour. So Get Right Tour is a sort of like a college game day, and it's being led by a person named Michael Jackson. He's a former professional tennis player, and a former NFL player named Will Davis are going on this tour together to actually sort of create a bunch of new content in the sports world that people have never heard before. They're a very energetic crew, and they're really, really fun people to listen to because they just have that energy. And in the sports world, I mean, it let's be honest, like ESPN's dead. Barstool Sports has been the only way I really consume most of my information in sports, and they are going to upend them. So there's going to be a Netflix show around them, and it's going to be pretty fun to watch. We're also going to tokenize a lot of their content, and we are pretty excited about working with them.
Wow. So you have a project with Barstool Sports in the works?
No. It's with it's totally separate. It's called the Get Right Tour.
Get Right Tour. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
But yeah, I just definitely wanted to give them a big salute, and I think that this is going to be a great project for people that are consuming it, and people that are watching it, and people that are going to buy their tokens.
Yeah, absolutely.
But again, Tour Trader Pro, that is where my head is focused right now, and I think that between the two of them, they're going to work together, which is kind of cool.
And any social media links that you like to point anyone in the direction?
Oh yeah. So we're partnering with Stage. Stage is going to be like I said, like it's a replacement for Discord. It's a way to build community and monitor community, and it definitely deserves some credit as well. Alexis Wren is their one of their founders. She's a very famous Instagram influencer, and she does a lot of the athletic work on there, which is they've sort of did a proof of concept around all of her following, and it's worked quite well. So I think this could be like the simplest solution to Discord.
Very cool. Yeah. All right. Cool. Thank you so much, Justin, for coming on the Medallion XLN podcast.